A story of the protagonist's journey from guilt to redemption, from greed to selflessness. That is what the guide is all about. Hello, this is Hina from Team Tess, and today's capsule summary is going to be the novel The Guide. Published in the year 1958, The Guide is written by R.K. Narayan, the very famous, the very accomplished Indian writer who lived from 1906 to 2001. And something important, his literary patron for his life was Graham Greene, the English writer. Okay, remember this. Graham Greene, the English novelist, was patron of R.K. Narayan. And for this novel, The Guide, Narayan received Sahitya Academy Award in the year 1960. And if you have seen the film Guide, which was released in 1965, you will love this summary. Otherwise, also, I have made it as easy as possible. You will love it. And look here, you can see the stamp which is issued by the Indian government. And you can see R.K. Narayan on it. Wow, awesome. So the setting of The Guide is the fictional South Indian town of Malgudi. Of course, because R.K. Narayan created this fictional town of Malgudi where he set his entire novels, right? And the narrator is third person and first person. First person is Raju, who is the protagonist, and third person is a normal narrator who is talking generally in the novel, okay? So let's start. Raju is the protagonist of the novel. As a young boy, he lives in Malgudi with his mother and father. He grows up to see the greatest human invention. And what is it? Railways. Listen to these quotes from the book. The steel tracks gleamed in the sun, and our world was neatly divided into this side of the railway line and that side. Okay. Now, Raju's father, who is a modest shopkeeper, opens up another shop. So he has one shop, he opens up another shop at the railway station, which enriches his family's fortune, right? But sadly, his father dies before Raju reaches adulthood, and the responsibility of the shop comes on the son's shoulders. However, Raju is not really interested in taking care of the shop. His interest lies somewhere else. Where? I'll tell you. The train at Malgudi brings many tourists to the town, and Raju transforms himself as a tourist guide, but a fabricated one. झूठ बोलने वाला, facts के साथ play करने वाला. For example, when he shows the sights to the tourists, he says that this mountain is the highest mountain in the world, but that's not the case. Then he will show something and he'll say that this was built in the BCs. Sometimes he'll say this was built in the ADs. So he's actually playing with the truth. He says, जैसा मेरा मन करता था, वैसा मैं बोल देता था. But let me tell you, his misinformation is so successful that innocent tourists seek him out in groups, asking for him by his nickname, Railway Raju. जितने भी tourists आते, कहते, Railway Raju किधर है? We want that he should show us Malgudi and around Malgudi, the caves, everything, the beauty. Imagine. Abhi, let's move ahead. We'll know what happens. Through his profession, Raju meets an English scholar named Marco Polo. Marco Polo is a serious and arrogant research scholar whose only passion is his work, okay? He does not like to talk to anybody. He's very dominating, haughty, and he just wants to devote himself to his work. He's an eternal tourist, which means that he keeps on moving from one place to the other because of his work. And he has come to study the cave paintings and temples scattered around Malgudi. He hires Raju as his guide, who lodges him and his young, beautiful wife, Rosie, at Peak House in Mempi Hills. Remember, Rosie की entry हो गई है novel में. Rosie is the novel's heroine, so you should know this. And Rosie is the wife of Marco Polo, the scholar. Okay, so Raju is their guide, and Raju, lodges them at a place to stay. The name of that place is Peak House, and it is located on Mempi Hills. These hills are beautiful hills on the outskirts of Malgudi. Okay, Raju instantly is enamored by Rosie's beauty, captivated. He literally, he has shine in his eyes when he looks at Rosie. And one day something very beautiful happens. What happens? One day when Marco is away for work, Raju shows Rosie around. To his astonishment, Rosie dances along as the snake charmer makes a cobra dance. Look at what Raju says. The man, snake charmer, pulled out his god flute and played on it. Like how the snake charmers play. The cobra darted hither and thither and swayed like how the cobras dance. Rosie stretched out her arm and swayed in, it in imitation of the movement. She swayed her whole body to the rhythm for just a second, but that was sufficient to tell me that she was the greatest dancer of the century. So that is how Raju is literally taken away. He's head over heels when he meets Rosie. Aage dekhe kya hota hai. From their subsequent conversations, Raju comes to know the following things about Rosie. Important, listen. First, unlike her name, Rosie is an Indian who belonged to a lower class family of classical dancers before marriage. She married Marco to raise in status in society. Second, after marriage, she is forbidden to dance by her domineering husband, Marco. And third, Marco ignores Rosie and they have grave differences in their marriage. फिर क्या था जी, मौके पे चौका लगाना था. Following this, Raju begins to flatter and compliment Rosie, telling her, oh God, you're such a beautiful dancer. Oh my God, you should continue with this profession of yours. And soon they strike up an affair, an extramarital affair behind Marco's back. And when Marco senses about his wife's extramarital affair, let me tell you, he leaves Rosie at the railway station angrily and departs from Malgudi forever. After this, we don't know whether Rosie and Marco meet. We don't know. Okay. Now, what should happen after this? Tell me, where should Rosie go? She will go to Raju. So Rosie appears with all her luggage at Raju's house. Raju's mother, as you know, father is no more. Raju's mother, who is a traditional woman, she's surprised by the appearance of a single young woman at their doorstep. But Raju is thrilled and happy. For some time, the mother accepts her until one day Raju's maternal uncle, which means mummy's brother or Raju's mama, he enters the house in desperation and interrogates Rosie by saying all this. Listen, are you of our clan? No. Are you of our caste? No. Our class? No. Do we know you? No. In that case, why are you here? After all, you are a dancing girl. We do not admit them in our families. Yeah? Caste system, dancing forbidden, girls of good house are only supposed to marry, be with their husbands. Of course, yes. Okay, so that is what was the wreath of that time. And uncle is really, there are rumors in the market that this married woman is staying in Raju's house. And that is how Mama tells Rosie to go away. But then something unexpected happens. What happens? Result of this fight is, out of her pride, Raju's mother leaves her own house. Imagine, माँ अपना घर छोड़ के चली जाती है while Raju and Rosie stay. Now, financial troubles escalate. Since Raju has been neglecting his shop and his guiding profession, he is under major debt. Rosie, unaware of Raju's financial problems, continues practicing her art of classical dance. And one day she declares that she is ready to perform publicly. And from here, Raju's life is transformed again. How? Till now, Raju was a guide. And now he becomes Rosie's manager. So the changes in Raju's life are, first, he becomes Rosie's manager, organizing her public performances. He changes his attire to suit his profession. Quote, I dressed myself soberly in a rough spun silk shirt and hand-woven dhoti. I wore rimless glasses, a present from Marco at one of our first meetings. I wore a wristwatch. I too felt changed. I had ceased to be the old railway Raju. He despairs the old himself. Now he's the fashionable, the all-in-demand stage manager of Rosie. Second, he gives Rosie a captivating name of Nalini, who becomes a huge success from her debut performance. फिर तो क्या था? Performances one by one after the other. And third, they shift to a very luxurious house where he begins to host rich men like politicians, like merchants, etc., who seek access to Nalini through Raju. Can you imagine? Time passes, and as you know it, hunger for wealth increases in Raju. He books back-to-back performances for now tired and weary Nalini. Rosie does not understand, मैं इतना क्यों perform कर रही हूँ? She's tired. She wants to break. But Raju justifies by saying that he and Rosie needed to earn the maximum they could manage. He also grows jealous of the artist friends that she likes to spend time with. Quote, I liked her to be happy, but only in my company, not in company of those strange men or artists. One day, Raju receives an unexpected parcel in the mail. एक mail में parcel आता है, कुछ डब्बा आता है. What is there? It is the book that Marco, Rosie's husband, has published on his research on the cave paintings in Malgudi. He has sent it for Rosie. तो पति को पत्नी की याद आ गई, book भेज दी गई है, but what will happen? Raju cannot bear the reappearance of Marco in their lives, so he hides this book from Rosie. Eventually, she comes to know, and this leads to a bitter fight between the two of them. Okay? After this, Raju, he gets jealous of Rosie's thoughts re-emerging for her husband, because of which he also hides a letter that has been sent to her from Marco's lawyers. This is a very important letter, and it concerns a box of valuable jewelry that Marco wants to give to Rosie. So Marco wants a jewelry box, a very valuable, stuff to be given to Rosie, but Raju hides this letter from her. And without a thought, forget that, छुपाना तो दूसरी बात है, he forges her signature. Matlab, he does Nalini's signature himself on the form sent by the lawyers, hoping to obtain the box of jewelry for himself without Rosie's knowledge. Before long, Raju's deceit is exposed. He is imprisoned for 2 long years, and Rosie is devastated. Despite her tireless dancing, Raju corrupted himself and destroyed his most cherished relationship. Now, let's listen a little bit in the prison life of Raju. While in prison, Raju reads about Nalini's increasing fame. Quote, I turned the last page of the Hindu with trembling fingers, and the last column in its top portion always displayed the same block: Nalini's photograph, the name of the institution where she was performing, and the price of the tickets. Now at this corner of South India, now there, next week in Ceylon, and another week in Bombay or Delhi. Her empire was expanding rather than shrinking. And here is where Raju realizes that Nalini's fame was not because of him. Nalini's fame was because of her own hard work. Yes? Now, after this instance, let me tell you, Raju and Rosie do not meet in the novel beyond this point. Okay? 2 साल पूरे हो गए हैं. It is time for Raju to get out of the jail. So after 2 years, what happens? Uncertain of where to go after his release from prison, Raju sits on the banks of a river near a small village. There, a stranger stares up at him reverently. एक stranger बैठा है जो राजू को ऐसे देख रहा है. Raju is like, oh God, मेरी दाढ़ी है कि क्या है? Is there some problem in me? Why is he doing like this? Soon the stranger, a villager named Velen, confesses that his younger sister is refusing to marry the match he has arranged for her. And Velen pleads Raju to convince his sister. Reluctantly, he agrees, and miraculously, she agrees for the marriage. The stranger comes to Raju and says that my sister is not agreeing to marry to this person. Can you please convince her? Raju says, ठीक है, I will try. And the sister agrees. इसके बाद क्या होना था? Tell me. Raju's life is transformed again. How? From a guide to the stage manager to a holy man. Yes, now Raju becomes a holy man or Swami. The villagers start believing that Raju has powers of a spiritual guide. He also accepts this lucrative offer of becoming a Swami because, quote, where could he go? He had not trained himself to make a living out of hard work. Food was coming to him unasked now. So he grows a beard and his hair and starts living in the temple by the river. Although in his heart he feels like a cheater, but he continues with this charade, he continues with this pretense, with this false living of a sadhu. Time passes and something unfortunate happens. What? A natural disaster, a drought, or a famine afflicts the village. And due to a misunderstanding, villagers think that Raju will undertake a 2-week fast to bring about rains. But the reality is, there is a fight happening in the village, and Raju is really fed up with this fight. So he says to a person, if these people keep on fighting, I will stop eating. And this person misinterprets, thinking that, oh, Swamiji will keep a fast for the rain to come, to pray to the gods. Ab Raju ji phas gaye. Gluttonous Raju, realizing the enormity of this sacrifice of, being on fast, eating nothing for 2 weeks, finally discloses his past life of deceit to Villain. But to Raju's dismay, Villain's views of him remains unchanged. Villain is the same. Villain says, I don't know why you tell me all this, Swami. It is very kind of you to address at such length your humble servant. And Raju is confused. Ki maine isko sahi to bataya. I told him how I was not a good guide. I used to play with facts. I told him how I was not a good stage manager. I played with Rosie's feelings. I gave her a very tired life. How I had an extramarital affair with that woman. But then Velen is like, nahi, aap to Swami ji, aapne itni mere se baat kar li, main to dhanya ho gaya. Astonished. Look at the superstition, the superstition which was the root of Indian families then, the villages. I hope we're coming out of it now. Astonished but also moved, Raju realizes all his past mistakes and decides to move towards redemption. And this is where the guide tells us the story of the protagonist move from guilt to redemption. You know how he was cheating before? Now he wants to really pay for all the sins. Okay? Yeah? He undergoes the 2 weeks fast with complete faith. News of Swami's fast spreads far and wide. Journalists arrive to report on the developments. On the final day of the fast, Raju is so weak, he's unable to descend to the dry river to hold vigil. Basically, every day he used to walk to the river, which is dry now, to hold the vigil, but he can't do it on the last day of the fast. And somehow, with Villain's help, he gathers the energy to reach the river. He's almost at the brink of unconsciousness. He's going to faint. He's become so weak. And on the brink of unconsciousness, he looks at the horizon and tells Villain that he feels rain is coming over the hills. Is the rain coming? Will the rain come? Will Raju survive after this fast? Nobody knows. Interpret yourself. We are done with the guide by R.K. Narayan. I loved it. I hope so did you. This is Hina from Team Test and our Indian literature series, basically Indian writings in English, that has begun. And we are going to come up with more such novels to help you take the maximum notes you can and make the most of our series. You will love it. Thank you so much. This is Team Tess, and do subscribe to our channel and share it with all your friends and relatives. Bye-bye.